Hi everybody, this is Joyce here, and this is the very first episode of Seasoned. Today we're going to be making a hearty broccoli and potato soup, so let's just get right into it. So we're going to set our pot to probably a medium-high setting, just hot enough. You know, we don't want to scorch any oil, but I do want it hot before I put it in. So we are going to use extra virgin olive oil. I usually am a canola oil girl, but I really like the taste and the flavor that olive oil lends to this dish. So we're going to put just enough in to coat the bottom of the cast iron pot. I'm going to help this out a little bit. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and add in some garlic. I always like to use garlic as a part of my base for a lot of my dishes actually, because it just boosts the flavor that much more. Alright. Oh wait, that's good. We can already hear it sizzling, so we know this pot is hot and ready to go. Alright, so we're just going to move this around a little bit. You know what, I think I can do for a little bit more garlic actually. Alright, and now we're going to be adding in our onions. This is really just one onion, roughly chopped up. I'm going to get these two flavors really mixing together well. And what I'd like to do here is I really just want to cook them until, you know, I don't want them super soggy, but I do want them translucent. Okay, these onions are just on the verge of being completely translucent, so I'm going to go ahead and add in our ground beef at this point. Alright, so I'm going to do my best to kind of break this down into smaller pieces. You know, some people kind of like to have larger pieces of ground beef in their soup, but I really like to have this not as thin as possible, but I just like smaller pieces. That way you kind of get a little bit of beef in every spoonful. And don't be afraid to get in there and break this up. At this point, I'm going to turn up the heat just a little bit higher. And at this point, since it's on high, you really want to make sure to keep your eye on it. You don't want burned ground beef. And then, you know, it'll just mess up the whole dish. Make sure you get those onions mixed in pretty well with the meat. Let those flavors kind of rub off on each other. I can already smell the garlic. It's really infusing well. Okay, so you're going to see at this point, the ground beef is going to be releasing juice. That's really good. That's where all the flavor is kind of compacted. So what you want to do is, or at least what I like to do, is it's going to release a lot of water. We're going to try to cook this as far as we can to get most of that water evaporated out as possible. And it's just going to leave a really profound, juicy flavor that's going to sizzle with the onions and the garlic. And because this is going to be the base of our soup, we really want to do our best to make sure that it is flavored very well. So at this point, it looks like it could do for a little bit of salt and pepper and some other seasoning. So why don't we go right ahead and do that. Add a little bit of salt. We could do for a little bit of black pepper as well. I like to add in the flavor while it's actually cooking because I think it gives it a better chance to infuse in really well. We're also going to add a little bit of ground red pepper, which you may not be expecting, but it gives it a nice kick. And depending on how spicy you want it, you can add more or less. We're going to do a little bit of paprika as well. I'm going to do a little bit more of that. And now we're just going to mix it all together. This is smelling really good. So now we're getting to that point where a lot of the water is really evaporating out of this beef mixture. And what's left is the really, really good flavor that we want. So we're going to try to keep this moving as much as possible because we don't want anything sticking or burning to our pot. If you're not comfortable with having the food on this high of a heat, you can turn it down, but I promise just keeping everything moving will suffice. Okay, at this point, I think it's safe to say that we're going to go ahead and we're going to add in our potatoes. I've already pre-chopped these, so you're just going to go ahead and put these in with the beef that we've got going here. Try to mix it around. And we're also going to turn down our heat. We don't need this high heat anymore. We're going to move it back down to probably in between medium and medium high, depending on how your stove likes to act. We're also going to be adding in our chicken broth. Yeah, that kind of cooled things off really quickly. Mix everything around pretty well. We're also going to be adding our evaporated milk. I've chosen to go with the low-fat evaporated milk because, you know, you're going to get the same flavor and you just don't need all of those extra calories. This is what's going to make this soup really creamy. Can mix this around again. And you'll see the color start to change. It's going to taste awesome. All right, so what we want to kind of get at this point is a little bit of a simmer. We don't want it to be rumbling, boiling, super hot. We just want it to simmer. So I'm going to crank up the heat just a little bit more. And then once we get it to that simmer, I may decrease the heat just to maintain it because we don't need the heat to keep on increasing. And then the secret ingredient, we're going to add some flour. This is going to kind of thicken it up and give the soup a little bit of just substance to it. And don't worry about the flour clumping together. Just make sure to stir it thoroughly, and the heat will kind of help to also spread it out. Just to crank up the flavor a little bit more, I'm going to go ahead and add in our herbs. I've got parsley here, and I've also got some basil. Mix that in. And this just gives it this really dynamic color. It just looks so much more pretty. I love adding this because, you know, a part of eating and enjoying your food is also having it look appetizing. People aren't going to eat something that they don't think looks nice. So let's, you know, I love this part about this soup. Okay, so we're going to check the tenderness of the potatoes now. Whoa, this is boiling really nicely. Okay, if we can stick a fork through the potatoes, then we're good to go. And it looks like we can. All right, so at this point, we're going to add in our broccoli. Be sure to turn the heat down. And the reason for that is because the food's already hot. It doesn't need to have any more heat. And you want your broccoli to remain crunchy. You don't want soggy broccoli. So once we add this in, we really could just turn it off and leave it covered and let it cook for a little bit with its own heat. Let's mix this in. Let's get this broccoli all the way down to the bottom of the pot, because if not, it'll just sit on top of everything else. Don't be afraid to forcibly push it down in there. And you'll see as soon as the broccoli touches it, it's going to start coming alive with green color. That's how you know it's already started the cooking process. We're going to cover this again. Let it sit. Let the steam build up inside the pot. Cook the broccoli down just a little bit. You still want it to have some crunch. And then we'll be back and we'll get to try it. Okay, I think we're ready to check our soup now. Oh, look at this beautiful steam. That's good. That means that the broccoli was probably cooked through with that. So let's check the broccoli. I can still see that it's clearly firm, but it is kind of got that lively green color, so I know that it's done. And I think we're actually ready to serve. I've got nice green broccoli, some good potato chunks, and of course, the ground beef. And here you go. I'm gonna try just a little bit of it. Broth tastes good. Broth tastes really good. This is good. We can season with a little bit of salt and pepper to your liking, and you're good to go. Thanks for watching.